September the 18th. Nice to meet you here. Grab a coffee and let's talk about a realistic utopia of a fair society. I represented you with Rousseau's arguments about what makes a freedom basic for fundamentality and the inalienability. Are there other arguments leading to different results? You bet. So let's first consider Jean-Jacques Rousseau's school of thought that has roots in classical Athens. According to this school of thought, political and democratic freedoms are the most important. Personal freedoms are, at best, instrumentally important when they help to promote a healthy democratic culture. So far, so good. But basically, this school of thought believes that your freedom of, let's say, speech, but also your bodily integrity, your freedom of movement, and your right to personal property are only protected when they don't get in the way of a smooth running of a political system. This points us already to the problem this view has when it comes to the establishment of a fair society. Followed to its conclusion, it will lead into a tyranny of a majority. When the will of a democratic majority clashes with the personal freedoms of a minority, the former takes priority. Going back to the original position that leaves open the possibility that you could be a member of a minority in the society behind the veil, you couldn't say in good faith that you would agree to such an arrangement that might strip you of your personal freedoms to choose your job or live your family life without interference or love whoever you want and so on. You couldn't say yes. This is the dataset I will use to generate my model of the world with, even though, in the end, I wouldn't be able to. Not really, because there's a majority, and when my majority says what I otherwise believe outside of this data set, well, then I have to agree to believe them or be subjected to cuts into my personal freedoms. Okay. So far so good, but I always believe it helps us even more to understand what's going on when we remember that each one of us is generating their own model of the world in our minds, and that when we are left to do it on our own devices, these models will end up being extremely diverse, given that the information going into the models is almost exclusively subjective. The only reason we ever align these models is to cooperate. And why do we cooperate? We want to cooperate in order to be able to conduct random searches, which offer the highest payoff of all searches available. Or not searches, but exploiting existing knowledge. But these random searches have a problem. They also represent the highest risk for the individual. You could die before you get to the highest payoff if you work alone. In order to satisfy this goal, we want to do random searches. We need to strike a balance between the level of alignment needed for the amount of cooperation we pursue and the degree the resulting models of a world in the members' minds remain diverse, so that the experiences and new knowledge these members seek out still add up to randomness in the searches. When you translate Rousseau's school of thought's argument into this language of self-generated models of a world, what they deem the right way to handle liberties is to turn them into a bargaining chip to limit the variety of self-generated models of the world more than all the members have agreed to voluntarily, and agreed is necessary to allow the level of cooperation pursued by all members. And they justify it by pointing at the fact that, well, the majority already uses these additional data collectively. So the minority should too. And if they don't, we cut their rights and liberties. So what they do in the end. There are two things majorly wrong with this view. For one, limiting the variety of the self-generated models makes the searches conducted by the members of a society in question, the experiences and knowledge sought out, the activities engaged in, and so on, less random. Thus, it robs the society as a whole of potential and profit here is not just monetarily, but also I use it also in a non-monetary sense. And that when people aligned their models of the world to a degree and cooperated exactly because they wanted to be able to go after the hype of random searches promise. Hence, this view undermines the whole reason of a social contract once reached. And then, people will only really use shared data in their internal, in their mind, mental word generation process that happens in their mind, when they can agree with it, when they have agreed to use it. The only way to get people to use data they haven't agreed to is by force. Like here, by cutting into their liberties that are meant to protect the variety of existing models of the world in a society. Once you introduce force into a system, violence begets violence. It will proliferate, messing with the word generation processes of all members of the society, and not in a good way. More and more of a cooperation agreement, this contract that once was made, will need to be enforced with violence and or the threat thereof until the agreement is totally gone, but the people are trapped in the system. This is certainly not a system to base a fair society on. The second opposite view to Rawls' ideas of what makes a liberty basic is the school of thought that is associated with John Locke and the modern liberal tradition, the neoliberals. According to this school of thought, personal freedoms are the most important freedoms, whereas democratic freedoms are only means to secure our personal freedoms and economic prosperity. This can lead to distinctly undemocratic conclusions, which I will talk about tomorrow because this post is already very long. Before I go, I want to mention that Professor Timothy Snyder has a new book out this week called On Freedom. I haven't read it yet, but I've heard him talk about it, and the discussion therein about negative and positive freedoms, freedoms from versus freedoms to, sound interesting. And I heard some echoes of my discussion about basic freedoms always having an individual aspect, as they are granted to the individual on the one hand, while being collective freedoms by nature. I'm looking forward to read the book, and so should you. So, yeah, there was quite a lot in it today. No questions, you can ask them yourself, but just talk to me about what you think Jean-Jacques Rousseau's school of thought is good for. If you think it could still be good for a fair society, yeah, just talk to me. You can find me tonight in a TikTok live where I will prep our dinner. That will be a frittata tonight. And if TikTok live is not your thing, even though I talk fair society there, I will be back tomorrow with another post about John Locke's School of Thought and that of the modern liberals and how it translates into the system of self-generated models of the world. Until then, bye.